Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Broadband Universe podcast. I'm Craig Corbin, and it is a pleasure to welcome my guest today, Mr. Rich Williams, the Conference Program Director for Fiber Connect. Rich, welcome back to the Broadband Universe.
Thank you. It seems like it's the time of year to have this conversation.
It is indeed. And of course, when we talk about that, obviously I know that your team have been busy for quite a while. And I'm sure that it goes back at least a year getting ready for this year's Fiber Connect event.
We started actually planning the content for 23 in March of 22. So
Wow.
a year and a half. But at that point, we were really looking at sort of what the reaction was we were getting from invites and conversations about 22 and what we need to do to sort of address the gaps that we were already seeing and what we believed was a disconnect, which ultimately informed how we created the theme and then how we created the pillars within the conference that support that theme. But then really after that one meeting, it was back to 22 and we didn't pick up the reins again for 23 for probably 4 or 5 months.
Right. And I know there's a lot of excitement, anticipation of another record-breaking number of registrants. I've heard the number 4,000 bandied about, a sellout of the Gaylord.
That's the expected. We're at well over 3,000 in pre-registration, and we've still got a week to go. And then last year, I think we had a huge number of walk-ups. And I think one of the things that's interesting this year is that we've reframed the last day on Wednesday, which is after the expo closes, as the State Broadband Summit, and we've offered that as a one-day pass. So if your focus really is policy and regulatory and what's happening at the state level, especially if you're focused on BEAD or any of the other federal funding programs, that's a great day to come, even if you just come to one day.
Obviously, and things get started off on Sunday. The pre-conference workshops, that's something that really has become a hallmark of Fiber Connect and so important and a great lineup there.
Yeah, the registrations for the pre-conference workshops have been phenomenal. And it's a place where we bring new ideas. We have the traditional fiber broadband starter toolkit, which is really ideal for that community broadband operator who is just starting to offer broadband services and what they can learn really from people who've been doing it for decades and what are best practices so that they don't make some of the mistakes that others might have made in the process. And then we have one on the ecology of fiber, really looking at fiber broadband and its environmental impact from corporate sustainability issues to we have a sit down with a chief sustainability officer. We've got a panel on how fiber makes other industries greener. And then a separate pre-conference workshop on middle mile, and one on community broadband operators, really looking at the role that munis, electric co-ops, and utilities are taking. And one that I'm really excited about, not that I'm not excited about all of them, they're all my favorite children, is we've got a partnership with the National Association of Counties. So for the first time, bringing in a host of county commissioners and mayors to talk about, as services move from federal funding and federal allocation to state grants to grantee, what are the tips and best practices and are the county commissioner level representatives looking for as they work with states, as they work with operators to handle issues like permitting, right, and rights of way. There's just a lot of moving parts in expanding broadband where it hasn't gone before. And so this is just a great chance to hear from commissioners of what they're looking for from partners.
Yeah, extremely timely to have that. Let's jump now, Rich, into the agenda itself. So many phenomenal breakout sessions. You have done an incredible job. And when you look at the agenda for this portion of Fiber Connect, it's phenomenal, beginning with that 50,000-foot overview and right down the line into so many aspects of what's going on. Phenomenal job.
It is a cornucopia of content, is the way I've been sort of jokingly referred to it as. I had an operator tell me that we'd invited her to attend the C-Suite Forum, which is a C-level curated event. And she said, honestly, our team is splitting up all the content. There's so much good content to hear that
Yeah.
we're just taking divide and conquer. Um, and what we try to focus on with the breakout sessions is really market level discussions, right? And
Yeah.
I think pretty much every panel has an operator on it. That's one of our goals. But we've got everything you said, like the network view to what cable operators are doing with fiber to fiber financials, case studies, a track on marketing. We've got a track that's been curated by our supply chain work group on issues of supply chain, including a very timely panel on BABA. Um, so there's just great content all around. Lots of stuff on deployment challenges and opportunities, workforce development. Really, just there's stuff for your. The goal for this year was really find something for anyone that is involved in this industry to find of interest and of value, right? So whether you're an engineer, a network planner, a marketing person, a financial person, there is information that will be shared during the show that will make your job hopefully better.
Well, no doubt. And one of the things that you just mentioned that I wanted to dig in a little bit more on, that's the workforce development. Because when you look at the tremendous deficit that we face now across the industry, and
Mm-hmm.
especially with the programs that are going to be coming the next 5, 10 years, so impressed with what the Fiber Broadband Association has done, in particular with the Optic Path program. Talk a little bit about that and how this is going to be a big part
It
of that
should, and
conversation.
there's a lot of groups and a lot of companies that have their own efforts, and we applaud all of those.
Yeah.
the The challenge is how do you have comfort in the level of training and the standards by which a graduate is held to.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things the OptiPath program provides. That if a person has gone through that 140 hours of coursework and I call it lab time, but really technical time, that they actually know
Yeah.
what they're doing, and you can put them in the field and they'll be successful. We are facing a real issue that is compounded by a lot of field technicians, optical field technicians, are retiring,
Yeah.
and we are facing, according to Mike Render's numbers, the largest expansion of broadband in history. Like more will be
Yeah.
deployed in the next 5 years than has ever been deployed before. So you've got the retiring of skilled workforce and the more broadband than ever. That just really makes this issue paramount.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You're watching the Broadband Universe podcast, brought to you by Lit Communities. Lit Communities. Light up your community. You deserve better internet. My guest today, Mr. Rich Williams, the program director, the conference program director for Fiber Connect, and we're talking about what is a phenomenal, just days away from an unbelievable opportunity, record-breaking attendance on hand for that. But when we look at some of the meat and potatoes, if you will, the technology deep dives, an unbelievable agenda that you have there. Let's talk about those.
We're really excited about this year because it's, again, we look at what are the conversations we want to have, and ultimately it's really gated by what we want people to walk away from Fiber Connect with. So we talked about the theme. The theme is what fiber disrupts next. Because I think one of the things that happens in this industry is that the network doesn't get credit for the role that it plays in enabling innovation to be pervasive, right? Netflix wouldn't be Netflix without the network, right? You wouldn't have, it wouldn't have changed the dynamics of film distribution and ultimately development. And now everyone has a direct to video stream. And the advances we're going to see in topics like telehealth, right, and community services are going to be
Yep.
phenomenal. Um, the so it is pillared by five operator-like talks. We have five FBA members that are doing TED style, TED Talk style talks,
Right.
um, 18 minutes in length. Which, because my brain has to rationalize why it's 18 minutes, it's because the speed of fiber is 180,000 kilometers per second, and that made it 18. And I know some engineers are going to put in the comments that it's actually da da da, and they're probably right, but it's still not rationalizing my brain, so I'm sticking with it. But it's and so it's AT&T, EPB, Consolidated Communications, Google Fiber, and Lumos Fiber. Um,
That's
each
phenomenal.
very different type of operators, different customer segments, different size, but all sharing their perspective how their network is enabling disruption with its customers or its market. And I'm really excited to see how those go. Um, we also have, it's a place to have conversations that matter.
Yeah.
We've got, and like we talked earlier, permitting is a big issue. And our opening keynote is Eric Vitale, who's the executive director of the Permitting Council. We've got an amazing fireside chat with Angela D. Bennett, who is the digital diversity director from NTIA. And
Right.
I meet a ton of executives in this job, and many are impressive. But there are a few people that I meet that have the impact on me that she has had. I first talked to her, I think, in October about this, and just the way she was like, and the way she sees fiber as the potential to have a generational impact on families and communities is really,
Sure.
really powerful. Um, yeah, so she's sitting down with Katie Espithus from EPB for a fireside chat that I'm very excited about. Um,
But that is something when we talk about not only those keynotes, but one thing that's really exciting, I think, and very timely is the State Broadband Summit and bringing in state broadband officers from all over the country. Because when you look at the allocation announcement, just more than a month ago, and now all that's on each of those offices, how important and timely it is to be able to access those directors for folks all across the country. Let's talk about the State Broadband Summit.
well, we've created, like you said, the State Broadband Summit at Fiber Connect. So it is really its own standalone event within Fiber Connect. Anyone that has a conference badge can attend it. It's not, but you can buy a day only pass to see that content. It starts with an opening keynote from NTIA, since BEAD is the topic of the month, um, followed by a 5-year plan and really next steps with four of the innovative top um, state broadband officers. We've got Louisiana, we've got Indiana, Louisiana, um, Kansas, New Mexico, and um, Arkansas. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Um, we have 94 sessions throughout the conference, so I'm a little
Wow.
blurry. I apologize for that. Um, yeah, it's okay. We're almost there. We're almost there.
Exactly.
And then because we're taking it a step deeper, like what's the next step? Like once the states make
Right.
their grants, it really flows down to the state legislatures. So we've got an
Sure.
amazing panel that's being moderated by Catherine DeWitt with two um, state representatives talk about what they're thinking about for their communities.
Nice.
We also have a panel about creating coalitions. Not everyone
Okay.
is a national provider, right? Creating coalitions is how they actually get through some of the
Yep.
challenges they'll face with deploying across state lines and states and
Yep.
communities. And then we wrap it up with a panel about rationalizing federal funding programs, because while BEAD is the topic of the day, it is only one of a dozen federal funding programs. And we've got
Yep.
an incredible lineup with speakers from the Capital Projects Fund and HUD and USDA Rural Development and the White House Council on Native American Affairs from the Department of the Interior. And we have the person who co-authored the Tribal Broadband Strategy Guide. So
Awesome.
just a great lineup of speakers and content. We wrap up on Wednesday 11:20, so plenty of time to make an afternoon flight. But if you're if you hadn't planned to stay, change your plans.
Absolutely, and that's one thing, Rich, that I would congratulate you and the staff for having put together a phenomenal agenda, top to bottom, side to side. It is action packed from the minute that the green flag drops on Sunday, and can't wait to be able to get down to Orlando and see you and everyone at Fiber Connect. Phenomenal job, and hats off to you for what you've done again with getting this all
I
planned
appreciate
and
that. And
ready to
it
rock and
is a
roll.
team. We just could not be done without the entire FBA team, without my team at Connect 2 Communications, without Evan Freeman from EPB, who's my
Yeah,
conference chair, and JJ, who's the FBA's chair. But one things I want to mention before we break, and I absolutely appreciate you having
sure.
me on, is we added a program a bit late in the game, but it's called Meet Your State Broadband Office. So you
Right.
can still register for that by emailing fiberconnect@fiberbroadband.org. We've got 8 state broadband offices represented. There'll be a moderated Q&A for 45 minutes, and then you'll be able to sit at table rounds with state broadband officers to ask questions. It is on Tuesday afternoon from 1:30 to 3. We'd love to have people take advantage of that opportunity. And I think that's it.
That is so exciting. Cannot wait to get down there and see you and everybody. Thanks so much for being here and giving us a preview. And it is just great. We look forward to Fiber Connect, as always, a highlight of the year every time around.
Thank you, Craig. We'll see everyone in Orlando.
And on behalf of Rich, thanks for letting us be a part of your day. We'll see you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long, everyone.